Welcome to the competitor orientation for the production machine S9X. We are here today with myself. My name is John. I'm the head of international business for Stronghold, based here in Korea. And with me today, we have our regional rep from Asia Pacific, Benjamin Tan. Ben, do you want to say hi?
Hi guys, this is Ken here.
So Ben's going to help me with the orientation today. He also has the S9X set up where he is. So he will also be going through the roasting demonstrations later in this presentation. So with that, we'll get things started. So this is what we are going to go over today. I will be going through the general overview of the machine. And then I will hand it over to Ben to discuss some effects of our heating sources and the airflow related to the roasting environment. And Ben will also go through the roasting demonstration, and we will also have a separate Q&A session at the end. If you guys have any questions throughout this orientation, please use the Q&A function in this Zoom webinar, or you could raise your hand and speak. We'll give you the floor to speak into the microphone. So use either the hand raising or the Q&A function to ask the questions, and we'll try to address the questions in the timely manner. All right. So what is S9X? S9X is a fully electric roasting machine. It's powered by three-phase electricity, rated at 380 volts, with the power of 34 kilowatts. In this roaster, we have three separate heating sources. First of which is the hot air, rated at 16 kilowatts. The halogen lamps, in total, they make up 5.2 kilowatts. And lastly, the drum heater is rated at 10 kilowatts. The S9X also comes with the integrated touchscreen monitor, which enables anyone to easily monitor the roast and control it at the same time, right from the machine. And as you can see, the machine comes in stainless steel finish with the coated steel in the bottom. The minimum batch size is 3 kilograms up to maximum of 8. So that is the general specification of the machine that you will all be using in Copenhagen. And now we'll go a little bit into the specifics. The dimensions. It's a big machine. The width, depth, and height comes in millimeters, as you can see, and it's over 1.9 meters. So it's a pretty high machine. Its weight is around 400 kilos. Input capacity I mentioned before. And an important detail here is about the probes. So there are a total of 6 sensors, 5 of which are PT100 probes. And these 5 probes measure hot air temperature, drum temperature, exhaust temperature, and we have 2 sensors for internal temperature. Internal temperature is what I think everyone is used to in terms of roasting on other machines. It basically measures the copy temperature along with everything else inside the drum. We have 2 internal temperature sensors, but only one is being used at this point. So we don't have values for both sensors. We just choose one and use that. And something unique about the S9X is the IR sensor. IR sensor measures the bean surface temperature, which what we like to call the true temperature of the coffee. So this, with the IR sensor technology, you can isolate the coffee temperature alone and not measure anything else, like the temperature of the air, temperature of the drum. It only measures the temperature of the coffee itself. So that's the IR sensor, which we label as the bean surface temperature. Typically, the preheating time from cold start takes about 15 minutes, about 10 to 15 minutes, and continuous batch preheating time. So between batches, it takes anywhere between no time to 5 minutes. Here are some numbers on reaction time. The fastest time you could reach the yellowing is around 3 minutes and 30 seconds under the nominal installation conditions. And the fastest time to browning and fastest time to first crack is listed here as well. Give or take some margin of error, because there are a lot of different coffees and there might be different batch sizes that's involved. We also have some optimal time for yellowing, browning, and first crack that you can take into consideration. The consistency here is not really a factor, since you won't be using the automatic rotation function that we have on the machine. The machine will have that function disabled, so you will only have the manual roasting function during the competition. And here are some more details about the machine. We have the agitation speed. So instead of the drum turning, we have blades on the bottom of the drum turning, or what we call agitating, to mix the coffee thoroughly. And at different settings, it provides different agitation speeds. So from 83 RPM to 155 RPM, the speed of the agitation changes. And another variable that you can control is also the airspeed. From levels 1 to 10, the airspeed varies from 13.85 meters per second to 18.14 meters per second. And this essentially controls a blower and controls the airspeed that goes throughout the roaster. Next is some details about the electricity. I think I mentioned most of it. The peak current of the machine in total is around 60 amps. And the rated power for hot air, halogen drum heater is, as I mentioned, above. Yeah, that's about it for the specifications of the machine. Like I said, if you guys have any questions, please use the Q&A function or raise your hand, and we'll try to address them in a timely manner. And next, we'll go over to the mechanisms, the parts of the machine that you might be interested in knowing. So in the machine, we have one power connection that powers the machine in the back. We also have the hopper on the top of the machine. And like I mentioned, the machine is 1.9 meters high. So there is going to be a step ladder that will help you get up and up high enough to load the coffee into the hopper. We also have the integrated touchscreen to monitor and to control your roast. And on the drum, you will also have the viewing window that you can see right into the drum. So you can track the color changes during roasting. And next to it, you'll find the dryer as well. Inside the machine, you will find a hot air blower that blows the air into the machine. So the hot air blower inhales the air from the outside, feeds it through the hot air heater, and that hot air will come down into the drum. And next to the hot air heater funnel is 4 halogen lamps that heat up the roaster. So halogen lamps are a very unique heating element that so far I think only Stronghold has in a commercial machine. So there are 2 halogen heaters on each side for a total of 4 lamps. We also have the drum heater, which provides heat to the drum itself. So the stainless steel drum gets heated up by the drum heater, and it makes a very consistent and stable roasting environment within the roaster. And as I mentioned, we have the agitation in the bottom of the machine that will mix the coffees thoroughly. And on top of the cyclone, we have the exhaust blower that extracts the air out of the machine. So there are 2 fans working in this roaster: the hot air blower, which is the intake, and exhaust blower, which is the outtake. X-Lens is the unique IR sensor that we discussed earlier. It's a new type of sensor that we have on our machine that measures the bed of the coffee, that measures the temperature of the bed of the coffee. Next, we have the cooling tray right below the drum. So when the coffee drops, it'll start cooling automatically. And lastly, we have the chaff processor, which mixes the chaff and water into a compacted piece of chaff that you can clean out very easily. All right. You know, on the graphic here, it doesn't look too pleasant, but in real life, it doesn't look as bad. And hopefully you can see that in Copenhagen. Let's talk about the heating a little bit. Like I said earlier, we have a total of 3 heaters that provide different types of heat. So first is convection. It's our main heat source, and air is the most efficient heat transfer mechanism. What hot air does is it quickly eliminates the moisture and it effectively transfers the heat to the inside and outside of the coffee. And it is very fast in response time, and it is also very powerful, especially with our S9X. So the hot air heater, along with the hot air blower, provides this convective heat transfer on our machine. Next is radiation. It's basically a direct transfer of energy in a waveform, which is how light travels. So you can essentially think of radiation as light penetrating the coffee. It delivers the heat directly into the interior of the coffee. And radiation actually exists in all roasters because all roasters have heat in their drums. And whenever a mass has heat, it gives off radiative heat, and you can't control that. But with our machine, we have 4 halogen lamps that you can control, so you can manipulate how much radiative heat the coffee receives. This will need to be modulated, of course, to suit the type of coffee you're roasting and how you want to roast the coffee. And the proper usage here can greatly improve the batch-to-batch protocol. So like with anything, if you lose too little of halogen, you'll have a hard time bringing the heat up again during during the batch-to-batch protocol. But if you use too much of it, you'll also have to spend time cooling the roasting drum environment. And next and third key source is the conduction. It's conduction is basically thermal transfer through physical contact. So we heat up the drum that's touching the coffee, and that touch basically provides heat to the drum, heat to the coffee. So this conduction is caused not only by the drum to being conduction, but there's also bean to bean conduction as well, which is why we have the agitator working to make sure that we have a very even contact between the drum and between the beans themselves. And like always, the proper usage of conduction here can also improve the B2B protocol. And next is the agitation. So since we have a vertical drum that's stationary, we needed something to rotate, to mix the coffees evenly. So these agitation blades are designed to provide even conductive and convective heat transfer to maximize surface area for radiant heat coming from the top as well. So choosing the right amount of agitation is very important to having a successful roast. Next is the airflow. We have the hot air blower and exhaust blower, like I mentioned earlier, and this will create the right amount of airflow and air pressure suitable for roasting coffee. So, and I mentioned this before, but hot air blower is the intake, which inhales the air and pushes it through the hot air heater to make sure we have the hot air coming into the drum. An exhaust blower extracts the air from the cyclone, which creates the vortex that separates the heavy particulates, which is the chaff, from the air, and the chaff goes into the chaff processor, and only the clean air goes out of the exhaust. And you can control this airflow to suit your roasting, suit the coffee characteristics, as well as your roasting style. And next, we'll talk a little bit about roastware. This screen will be the first screen that you see when you walk up to the roaster, if I'm correct. The machine will be preheated to our initial setting, our factory setting, which is 175 Celsius as the target internal temperature. And it will be preheated to 100%. This target internal temperature does not necessarily correlate to a certain sensor, but instead it measures a mixture of the bean surface sensor, the drum surface, as well as hot air. And on the bottom here, you will also see you'll also see these settings here, which is completely independent of preheating. So whatever settings that you put, so this is the button that you push to adjust these settings. Whatever settings that you put here is only applied at the beginning of the roast. So the preheating process is completely automated to the target internal temperature. So whatever target internal temperature that you set by either clicking this number or pushing up or down on these icons, you can set the preheating temperature, and the machine will automatically reach that target temperature. In the bottom here, these are values that you want the roasting machine to start when you put the coffee in. So as soon as you hit start, the roaster will start roasting with these settings. And while you load the coffee, you won't be able to change these settings for, I believe, around 15 to 20 seconds. So it's important to put in the right values here to start your roasting. And Ben will go into this a little bit when we do the demonstration. And next is the roasting screen itself. So here you will also have the control for the 5 variables that we have: hot air, halogen, drum heater, bean agitation, and the blower. And you also have, so you can click the number itself, and it'll give you a pop-up for anywhere between 1 to 10, or 0 to 10, and you can choose that value to jump, make big changes, or you can use these buttons to go up or down in the smallest increments, which for hot air, halogen, and drum heater is 0.5, and for bean agitation and blower is by 1 level. And on the bottom here is the first crack marker, or crack marker. Once you push this button, you will see a first crack mark appear on the roasting graph. If you push it again, it'll mark the second crack. And as soon as you mark the crack, the DTR will automatically be calculated in the bottom here. If you wish to delete the first crack mark, if you pressed it by mistake, you can push and hold it, and the mark will disappear. Moving also into this panel here. This is the release button that you will push only when you want to finish your roast, as this will discharge the coffees into the cooling tray. Duration, internal, and bean surface temperature shows the real-time time and temperature of the coffees, as well as the real-time ROR. This is the ROR for internal sensor, and BSROR is the ROR for bean surface sensor. And in the roasting graph here, there is a lot of information. On the top, you'll see the real-time values with the hot air sensor, the exhaust temperature, and the drum surface. So we have a total of 5 sensors giving you 5 different values at any time in the roast. On the graph, you will see the internal sensor as a white line, which is what I think everyone would be used to, the Nike graph. And bean surface is the new sensor that we mentioned. This is the IR sensor that measures the true temperature of the coffee. So what's unique here is that the bean surface sensor, since it measures the coffee with the laser, it's a lot more sensitive. So I think compared to the probe that we have in our machine measuring the internal temperature, it's going to be more, if you will, volatile, but at the same time sensitive to the changes. And interesting enough, once you put in the coffee, the bean surface temperature starts on the bottom here. And that's because the coffee itself is most likely in a room temperature condition. The coffee doesn't start hot and then cools off and then goes back up, right? The coffee will start cold and progressively gets hotter as you continue the roast. So this basically shows you the actual transformation the coffee goes through during roasting. So these two values are graphed on the y-axis on your left-hand side. So the temperature graph you'll have to see from the left-hand side. On the right-hand side, you will have the drum surface temperature and the hot air temperature. So the drum surface is more or less going to be stable, except for the start of the roast, or unless you change the drum heater setting. As you change the drum heater setting, you'll see the drum surface temperature go up or down depending on how you set it. You'll also see the hot air temperature change a lot as you change your hot air setting. And it'll be graphed with the red line here. At any point during roasting, you can click this button or this area to disable the graph. So if you click the bean surface here, it'll erase the graph. So it won't. So if you don't like having too many graphs in your face, then you can disable these functions to make it a bit more simpler. And you can also pinch the graph area to zoom in and out. And you will use this button to come back to the normal zoom out setting. On the bottom, we have the control values graphed throughout the roast. So we have the 5 variables that you control from this right side, all graphed. So any changes that you make, so for this hot air, you see it went up at this point, and you can see the change like that, going up and down, up again. And also from the y-axis on the right side, we have the graph for the ROR. The ROR, like I mentioned, is the ROR for internal. The surface ROR is graphed separately with the baby blue line. So that's it about the roastware, what you'll be using, and the mechanisms of the machine, the heaters, as well as some of the general specifications. Next, we're gonna go talk a little bit about roasting with Ben. But in the meantime, if you guys have any questions, like I said, please don't hesitate to ask. We actually do welcome questions during the presentation, because if we put up the Q&A all the way to the end, people might forget, or it might not become, it might actually benefit everyone to have the Q&A early on. Okay, so I will hand it over to Ben. Ben, do you want to get started with the heat transfers? Perfect.
Yep. Which time? John, I think Philip has a question.
So we have a question here. Which temperature is used for the roast plan? We actually happen to have a WCRC judge here in this call. I'm not sure if Lucas, you want to address this, but I believe the temperature that will be used for the roast plan is the internal temperature, which is from the probe. And I think that will be the case for the starting temperature as well as any temperature that is going to be graded or evaluated on from the roast plan. But I'm not I'm not a judge, or I'm not in the committee here. So I just speak from. Oh, sorry, Lucas just said they will confirm everything at the orientation meeting. All right. Yeah, I think that question is answered, hopefully, or will be answered at the orientation meeting. Ben, do you want to continue?
Yep. So I'll just go through some of the tests that we have done in terms of heat transfer based off of a 4 kilo batch size. So for convection, which is the hot air setting, if you can see from the screen, we did a test of hot air setting 8, 9, and 10. It will be the main driver for your roasting, and it takes up about at 70% if you're setting at all settings at max. So from 8, the first crack happens at around 8 minutes and 1 second, and the total roast time is around like 9 minutes and 21 seconds, to all the way at 10, setting 10, where the differential it's a couple of minutes, it cracks at 5 minutes 48 seconds, and then the total roast time is 6 minutes 28 seconds. So depending on what kind of roast you want to achieve, this convection setting or the hot air setting will be making the biggest impact in terms of your heating source. So the incremental adjustment will be in 0.5. So I recommend you use this as the main source of energy if you do want to make any major changes. And then for radiation, which is the halogen lamps, so radiative heat does a lot less in terms of reducing timing wise. So between 8 to 10 halogen, the first crack temperature differences is around 20 seconds. So from at setting 8 is almost 8 minutes at 7:55, with a total roast time of 9 minutes and 17, to halogen 10, where the first crack happens at 7 minutes and 39 seconds, and the total roast time is 8 minutes 21 seconds. So this is kind of more of assistive heat source for me personally. The changes for halogen happens in 0.5 incrementals as well, which I will show you on the screen later on. And finally, for conduction, this reacts slightly differently from the rest. So from 8 to 10, it does get really, really hot. And differential, once again, is not that high, roughly around like 30 seconds or so between 8 to 10. So my personal experience is if you go high at above 5, generally it will be really, really high in conduction. If you're at setting 10, it takes up about 10%. So I recommend maybe you can test it out and see how it reacts to your coffee. Yeah, and then this chart over here can roughly show you exactly how everything affects the roast. So if you do need something to refer to, of course, this is based off of something that we have tested on our beans. So do take it with a pinch of salt, and it might not work exactly the same way for whatever beans you might be roasting. All right. Yeah. So ratio is stated here. Hot air is 70%, halogen at 20%, and jump heat at 10%. This is assuming all heat sources are at maximum power. And as John has mentioned, all these heating sources, I will not really go through again, but yeah, the one point that I like to highlight would be just the drum heater. If used at a high setting, it will cause it to heat up really, really high. And if you are roasting at a really high temperature, what the system does is it uses an algorithm to basically take in measurements from all the probes. And with that said, it will try to cool down the machine to the initial settings. So if your drum heater is at a really, really high setting, it will take quite a while for the machine to cool down to be able to hit 100% again for the next batch. So just take note of that when you're using the drum heater. And then as for airflow, these are the tests that we have done. Depending on the airflow, it does change how you're going to roast it. Timing wise, it doesn't make that much of a difference from 2 to 10. So these are the tests that we've done, almost like 40 seconds difference from 2 to 10. Yeah, and then just to show you the curve. So the hot air reading that you're seeing here, from 2 to 4, and then you basically the front part of the roast gets extended a little bit right here. And then from 4 to 6 onwards, you can see the entire roast does get longer by quite a bit. So the hot air actually flattens out as you increase the levels of airflow. So this is something that you can consider if you're trying to achieve a longer or shorter roast, depending on how you like it. And then this will be the chart for all the settings and the changes. And then for the blower, differential is 0.5 meters per second in difference for the level. This is our personal recommendations, but of course, it is entirely up to you guys, where the blow level we tend to use will be usually for 4 kilos, we'll set it at 5. And then example 3, we'll set it at 4. But once again, the blower level is a value that is a personal recommendation, and it really is up to you, depending on the best size that you want to use. And then, yeah, one thing to take note will be exothermic reaction during the first crack. Will also cause problems at a lower blower setting. I'm just gonna switch screen now to show you the setup and the demonstration for the roasting. Be right back. So this is the roaster that you'll be using. So just to go through with you guys again, you will get a ladder to reach the hopper, and the hopper will just be right on top of here. So this hopper fits comfortably anywhere from 3 to 8 kilos. And for the ring screen, it's right over here. And you can see the agitation link spinning inside as well. And for the dryer, it's right over here. Just take note that there's a little notch for the dryer that sits right below. Right? So this will basically align to the holder for the dryer. And it's pretty long. So just be careful, it's quite heavy as well. So just when you're putting it back, try to align it and it. And then for the drum cooler, it will be here, the fan. And for the door, it will be with 2 clips at the side where it will bite in and lock. Right. And So this is the main screen that you will be interfacing with. It may or may not be this screen at the start, depending on whether it's a first rows or not. So usually after the first rows, it comes back to this page and then this will pop up. As John mentioned, just remember to set your settings. This does not affect the preheating up time. So it purely adjusts what you will be interfacing with at the start of your rows. So all of these are in 0.5 incrementals for hot air, halogen, and drum heater. And usually it gives you a warning for anything above level 5. Feel free to use whichever level that works for you. And then for bin agitation and blower, it's an incremental of 1. So I'm going to drop in 4 kilos of beans now to the hopper. So just take note that when you press start over here, the bean drops in immediately. So just remember to press start here and it doesn't work on the start button. So this will be a rotating screen. As John has mentioned previously, you can press the middle button, the middle of the settings, the numbers, and it will blow up to this screen where you can do huge adjustments fairly quickly. And then once you close it, it comes back to this screen over here. Turning on the sound so that you can have an idea of how it will sound like in the rotation. So just be careful not to press the release button because it will immediately drop the beans. If you do need to mark crack, as mentioned, you have to take once to mark first crack, 5 to mark second crack, and if you press and hold, it will reduce or remove the marking to the down. So the differential for internal probe, this is a 6 mm probe. So that's the difference between that and the IR center. You may not be used to this number, but roughly, usually browning happens at around 160 degrees on the bean surface. Then that's when usually you can do your changes or adjustments. And for the colored lines over here, if you do want to reduce them to thinner lines or just remove them, just click on the words itself. And you can set to whatever graphs that works best for you in terms of setting. And then the bottom part basically shows your adjustments that you make there. So you change the halogen will drop straight away. So we're now reaching browning stage. So at any point of time, if you do want to take out the beans, just feel free to use the dryer. So remember to keep the notch facing upwards, and you can just pull it out at any point of time to check the colors. And for these two, just take note that the ROI and the BS ROI will be light. And if you do need to, if you make any adjustments, you should reflect quite fast right over here. So to give you an example, would be if I were to drop this right now, let's say 0. So without the halogen, it will start dropping pretty fast, almost instantly actually. So based on personal experience, the probes are usually calibrated slightly differently in terms of manufacturer's settings for the probe itself. So you might not be used to the exact range of crack temperature that you usually are used to work with. So just be careful and take note that the temperature reading might be quite different from what you're used to in terms of perspective. So when nearing the crack, it should be audible if you are close enough, depending on the beans itself. Which I'll turn on the audio once you guys can see if you can hear it. So it is starting to crack. I'm not so sure if you can hear it over the phone, but from where we are, about 1 meter away, you can hear it. And all you do is you just mark the crack with the button on it. Do any adjustments that you need to, and then you can make out the trial to hear it better. So whichever works best for you. And then you can check colors through the fire over here. Yeah, so it's pretty straightforward to get your things out. And then once you are happy with the rows, just press release, and it straight away the beans will come out, and the cooling fan will be activated. So for the roastware itself, when it's releasing the beans, it will try to reset itself to the initial speed that it has started with for your repeat roasting. So it'll take around 55 seconds while it dispenses the beans. And just to give you guys a heads up for the bean release, when you're releasing it, try and open up all the way. You keep it halfway, it tends to crack the beans quite a fair bit. So you pull it all the way out. And for your model, you should have 2 teeth that you just have to push all the way and then just lock it in like this. Take it in to make sure that it bites onto the tray so that it doesn't come off during cooling. Yeah, and then once you're done, it will come back to this stage for the next rows. So it will traditionally come out where you can just go straight into your settings. And once you're happy with your settings, it will come back to this screen. And as mentioned, you will take multiple readings from all the probes and you will heat up individually. You'll try to heat the target internal temperature. And between batch, it will usually, from my experience, take around 3 to 7 minutes. It will be pretty fast.
So yeah, do you guys have any questions about the roaster, about how we use it? Anything at all? Is it possible to stop the rotation from the cooling arm? So during cooling, you can stop the rotation of the cooling arm, but it'll also stop the cooling fan. So it's a yes and a no. If you want the coffee to cool, you'll have to keep using the cooling arm along with the cooling fan. There is a little hack, and I don't know if you're allowed to do this in the world stage or not, but you can go into, Ben, can you help me here? To the diagnostics. And from this screen, you can choose only to start the cooling fan without having the cooling wing rotate. So yeah, if you push that button, it'll only have the cooling fan. All right, I hope that answers that question.
Sorry, just to add on a little bit, when you do get out of the main screen, if you do, the fan tends to stop for a bit. So just be careful in case you do want to keep the fan going on throughout the cooling period.
Yeah, the downside of that would be you can have the coffee cool without the cooling arm, but you won't be able to start roasting right away because it won't be able to preheat while you're in the diagnostics. All right. Any other questions? Regarding the presentation material that we shared with you today, I am not 100% sure when or if it'll be shared with everyone, but I believe I don't think it'll be that big of an issue. So we'll try to send it out to all the competitors well before the competition week starts. And especially this recording or this webinar is being recorded, and we will address or we will upload this to YouTube, right? Yeah, we'll upload this to our YouTube channel, which you can find at Stronghold Cast Global on YouTube. So can check that out. There are some other resources and videos that you can check out on our channel as well. So please visit our YouTube page. And I believe we have reached the end of this presentation. If there are no more questions from the crowd, we do have practice rooms or our showrooms that are operated by our clients and distributors around the world. So if you need access to S9X, we can try to match you to the nearest showroom location, so you can get some hands-on time before you come to Copenhagen. For that inquiry, just please email us, and we will try to get back to you as soon as possible. All right. So if there are no more questions, thank you everyone for joining today. And especially thank you, Ben, for helping us walk through the machine, as well as doing a live demonstration of the S9X roasting. So thank you, everyone. And I hope to see everyone healthy and smiling in Copenhagen. So until then, we'll say goodbye. Take care.
Hi, guys.